on? Is that a jersey of some sort? It looks
Yeah, no,
Mets-esque or
it's old
oh,
school,
there we
baby.
go. There
Yeah,
it is. Okay.
I
I
ran
couldn't see it at
downstairs before the
first.
show. I was like, oh man, they're gonna rock the best logo in all of professional sports. I better go make sure I'm rocking it myself. Welcome in, everybody. It is Color Rush Week, and it is Saturday night, which means it's time for another episode of Mile High Insiders. I am your host, Nick Kendell, and joined by, as always, on Saturday nights with my partner and good friend, Luke Patterson. Luke, welcome in. How you doing?
Not only is it a color rush, Nick, it's a Broncos rush. I'm full
Yeah.
of excitement. This team is starting to become a little bit more relevant. Beat a gnarly Dallas team. We talked about that trap game last week, but the fact of the matter is, Broncos are on a 2-game winning streak, hoping to make it 3 tomorrow against the Eagles and sweep the NFC East. I'm excited. I'm excited to watch football tomorrow, something that has been lacking. So I'm good, man. I'm feeling really good.
Well, you know me, I always got to counteract you. I'm nervous. I'm nervous as heck right now. The Broncos coming off a big win against Dallas. Now everything they want to do is right in front of them, and they have to come through, man. They have to come through. We got to play some meaningful football down the stretch here. The AFC West, man, it's within grasp. But obviously, guys, you can follow us on Twitter. Luke is at Luke Patterson LP. I'm at Nick Kendell MHH. Also, make sure you're following us at MHI_pod and at Mile High Huddle. Christmas is right around the corner, guys, so make sure you're checking out the shop. We're rocking our Mile High Insiders hats here. You got merch for every single show and a great way to support us and also look blinged out a little bit as well. So check out huddleatpod.com. If you're joining us on Facebook today, go to facebook.com/Mile High Huddle and facebook.com/Mile High Huddle pod. Join the conversations there. Anything that we say on here sparks your interest, add us on there, man. Let's have a conversation. If you're on YouTube today, please subscribe, smash the like button, hit the share so that way the follower count can get up, yada, yada. We appreciate all you guys joining us on Facebook and YouTube today. And also for our Facebook and YouTube listeners, we do have a giveaway going on right now. The goal is a fifth of a million stars, so 200,000 stars over on Facebook. Scott said before the show we were at about 85% there. So hopefully we're going to get that going. And, that'll be great. And you guys can make sure to get those in. And if we get a win on that, then we'll get a chance to get another jersey. And for your jersey win this week, this month, you get to pick what jersey you want. So what would you get? I asked you last time, Luke, what are you thinking there? I said McManus, I jinxed him. Who are you going to put the jinx on for me?
I actually wrote about McManus this last week on milehighhuddle.com. We'll get into that a little bit earlier, but I'm still rocking PS2, man. I love his future. I love the swag. I know we got some injury right now, but PS2 all the way. But man, pick your own jersey. How cool is that?
Yeah. No, very cool. Man, got to go classic too. I've been talking him up. Maybe Steve Atwater would be on the docket for me. That'd be a great one.
There
Classic.
You go.
Hall of Famer. And you know who's a Hall of Famer in my book? Muhammad Badri coming in, Braun and Smooth Killer into house. Thank you so much, Mo. It's always great to see you. Also, maybe Troy Wild Turkey Scott with the stars here as well. So, like I said, you guys are getting those in.
Troy's my guy, dude. Troy is my
Awesome.
guy. He's one of the funniest cats ever. We're buddies on Facebook as well. And that guy is, man, I got to be careful because sometimes he'd be throwing some funny stuff out there that I can't always like because I don't want to get in trouble from the Facebook police. But Troy, You're funny. I appreciate your support. Peter Middleton, man. Pete's been with us since the beginning as well. Good morning from Cambodia, Broncos country. I absolutely love it. Peter, thank you so much for your support. It's so cool to see Broncos country all over the world, Nick, and that's one of the flagships of our publication, if you will. Broncos country is not a geographical location. It is a state of being. And speaking of state of being, you guys can head on over to milehighhuddle.com. You can check out all our latest work. We've got articles every single day that are constantly updating. You can find our podcast, our video analysis, all kinds of stuff. And let's say hello to some of the folks. Ernie Mays. What's up, Ernie? Ernie is always one of the most optimistic fans in Broncos country, Nick. I love Ernie's energy.
Ride or die. Ride or die, man. That's Ernie, man. I feel the energy always, Broncos by a million every single week. Also, Mark is in the house. Howdy, Nick and Luke in Broncos country. We got Kaylee's in the house. Also, good to see you. Dylan Von Ark saying, make sure you guys are hitting the like button on the way in. Scott behind the scenes, as always, watching you guys. Make sure you're well behaved. Santa's watching. Good afternoon, all from Scott. Mo coming back in with a $5 super sticker. Thank you very much, Mo. We appreciate you. And the Facebook police. You got to watch out for those guys.
Tommy, I love it, dude. The Facebook police are why I joined the YouTube side. Speaking of that, guys, be sure you guys can support us wherever you get your podcast as well. It's not just Facebook. It's not just YouTube, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. Find MHI under Mile High Huddle. We also have some great other pods as well. Always new content. over at MHH. So it's cool to see people reaching out. Jay is in the house as well. I see Jay in the stream, always causing trouble. And speaking of trouble, let's get one from Andrew, our guy, saying, my dudes, this game prediction, I'm sorry to say, fellas, but it feels like a 24-13 Philly Eagles win. It just feels like a classic Fangio letdown game. And trust, hope I am eating a big old plate of crow tomorrow night. Andrew, you've got no reason to feel upset for feeling that way. Nick, you're a little nervous. I'm a little nervous. Mom spaghetti, that whole 8 Mile thing we're always talking about. The Broncos can't be feeling themselves. They cannot be pounding their chest. This Philadelphia Eagles team has talent. Now, say what you want about them. We can make all the jokes about Nick Sirianni that we want. Any given Sunday, you're going to win or you're going to lose. Look what just happened to the Ravens last Thursday night. I mean, the NFL is full of parity, Nick.
Yeah, it totally is. And the Broncos are dealing with a little bit of adversity entering this game as well, with offensive coordinator Pat Shurmur on the sick bug list, not going to be there. I don't even think in the stadium. I mean, that would make sense. But the Broncos sound like they're going to put play calling duties onto former offensive coordinator, current quarterback coach Mike Shula. Obviously, Shula was the offensive coordinator for Patrick Shurmur when Shurmur was the head coach of the New York Football Giants. So Shula's going to get a chance to get, I think a lot of Broncos country is pretty excited about that, but Broncos coming off of one of their best offensive performances of the season. It's one more factor that makes me just a little bit nervous because the game is already a little bit weird.
Yeah, well, something else to think about with Shurmur. I mean, that's obviously different, but I'm also speaking for Broncos country. Hey, I don't know that this is a terrible thing. Coach, feel better. Yeah. I don't mean it in that sense at all. Yeah. Feel better, rest up, heal up, thoughts and prayers. But at the same time, I've been waiting to see Mike Shula by hook or by crook. This is just one of those things. Players are dealing with it. Now you're starting to see some coaches deal with it. Ed Donatel dealt with it last year, kind of odd, but he wasn't the offensive play caller. He doesn't even get defensive play calls. This is going to be a little odd. You saw Mike Shula in Carolina with Cam Newton, who obviously made waves this last week, re-signing with the Panthers. No, I don't think you're going to see Cam in action tomorrow. Hopefully you see him suited up at least, but Cam Newton, Nick, has credited Mike Shula for so much success in his career, specifically that MVP season and all of his success during Super Bowl 50 or lack thereof. It was a match made in heaven, really, in Cam Newton's eyes, where Mike Shula really bent that offense to what their superstar quarterback at the time did well.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right there. It'll be good to see him. I just hope that he does what the Broncos did last week. The identity finally starting to come together and running the ball effectively. Now, some of that is execution, right? Everybody's like, oh, call the perfect play. Well, sometimes you have the right play called up and one guy misses a block and it's blown up. So hopefully the Broncos can go out there and execute again. And they're going to have to run the ball effectively to protect the offensive line, right? 3 new starters or 3 starters out. It's going to be rough. This Eagles team along the trenches, it's probably the strength of the entire team, right? Defensive line, Josh Sweat, Ryan Kerrigan, Derek Barnett, Javon Hargraves, and Fletcher Cox. I mean, that's a pretty good list of pass rushers.
Oh, man, Fletcher Cox. I mean, like, his stats aren't going to scream or jump off the page, and I actually wrote about it. It's one of my keys to victory in milehighhuddle.com. Look, Lloyd Cushenberry and Quinn Miners, Dalton Reisner, that interior group has their work cut out for him. I think you got to double team this man because the Broncos have been that get back. Well, the 10-year veteran, rather, all pro bowler, Super Bowl champ in his own right, he's going to be looking to eat after those young lions right there. He's the old lion in the sun. You don't want to poke him. You don't want to bother him. Well, he sees these young lions coming up on his turf. Fletcher Cox is going to be a problem tomorrow. I'm excited to see what's going to happen.
Yeah, you know what makes me excited? Seeing Eclipse Stormborn back in the house. He was gone for a bit, but I feel like he was gone for a bit. But welcome back. Good to see you again, making some noise.
What's up,
saying happy Saturday, insiders. Going to be in a room full of Eagles fans tomorrow. Boo. Rough. Man, they're a wild bunch. Hopefully you're safe. I can't wait. Peace from Philly, and I love you too, Luke. Oh, that's cute. That's man. Nice.
No. My guy. No, I love it. I appreciate the support. A room full of Eagles fans. I will say this, man, like, I haven't been to Philly because I'm terrified. But no, it's just the city of brotherly love. I don't know how they got that nickname because those fans are crazy about their sports teams. But if Philly fan, I'm going to come at you just a skosh because you're very obnoxious, Philly fan. I mean, say what you want about us wandering the quarterback desert and head coaching vacancies and all that. I mean, Philly fan, a whole room of them, that's going to be tough. Good luck, E.
Yeah, no, this is going to be a tough game, and hopefully no injuries from the fans. Broncos versus Eagles there, but both these teams on the field pretty injured coming into this game. Obviously, the Broncos have injuries on the offensive line of scrimmage. You have now three different guys going to be in there. Calvin Anderson, back-to-back weeks. Hopefully, he can build on last week. Quinn Miners, first or second official start. I know he's played about 3 games now, but he's officially starting in right guard over a relatively healthy Moody, so I think that's notable. And then Cameron Fleming coming in at right tackle. So it's going to be interesting. We got Robot of Doom coming in on Twitch saying, I am here on Twitch. There we go. Taking a break from my stream to listen to the Goats of Broncos talk, man. Thank you.
Wow.
You flatter us, man. That's really nice. Making some chicken crunch wraps. That's great. And we got the
in honor
Eagles,
of the birds. In honor of the birds, Robo's getting after his bird right now, getting some chicken crunch wraps in. I love it, guys. You can also check out MHI just like Robo does on Twitch, man. We're all over the place. Very much appreciate you taking the time, but I love it. Some chicken crunch wraps in honor of those dirty birds that are here in the Mile High City.
Yeah, and you can see this list here. It's the injury report for the Eagles. A lot of guys not participating. We got Sweat coming off a concussion, Devonta Smith with an elbow, Darius Slay with a hamstring, Rodney McLeod, et cetera, Jason Kelsey. But as you can see here on that last column, full participant, you do have Sweat and Dillard with the questionable marks, but the Eagles are banged up. But that's kind of the reality of a lot of teams this time of year where you're going to be banged up. It does seem like all these guys are going to play, even if they are a bit dinged up. But you got to go out there. That's why you have depth, right? That's why it's a 53-man roster. Next guy up, and you got to have a good rotation.
Yeah, Broncos country, you should also watch for Taylor at linebacker tomorrow for the Eagles. He played at CU Boulder. I got to check out his pro day. It was the same day or same class that Visca Chenault went. Obviously, Visca didn't go in that pro day, but this young man's impressive. You're going to see him flying all over the field. He's an outside linebacker, so watch out for that. It's always cool when you see those small town connections or small world connections, rather. So he's going to have a lot of friends and family playing. But right now, it does look like only Sweat and Dillard listed as questionable. So, injuries, illness, I mean, whatever you want to call it, it's happened for teams all over the league. And especially watching that Ravens game, man, it's absolutely insane to see what Baltimore has gone through. And they're going to be in the postseason. Yeah. Something that's interesting. I mean, the Broncos, they're fighting their own issues right now, but they're getting those wins, and there's no such thing as apologizing for a win in the NFL. So the Broncos, they're starting to stack them up. I want them to get 3 in a row tomorrow.
Yep, they're going to have to. Naj coming in, $20. Naj is always consistently supporting us via YouTube. Thank you so much, Naj. Naj says, appreciate you, brothers. Been very impressed with Young. Seems like him and Browning make a nice duo inside over the next few years. Thoughts? So this is, thank you very much for the support, Naj. This is a topic I want to get into. The Broncos linebackers are going to have to come to play in this game. We know that Browning has been injured this week with back issues, I think is what he's been listed with. And you had Young saying, he's really enjoying Colorado and sticking around. But the Eagles on offense really put the opposing team's linebackers in flux every single week. They like to run a lot of 11 personnel, with Dallas Goedert being one of the better young tight ends in football, and run quarterback power out of empty or single back sets with Jalen Hurts. Empty out the box, put you in a bad position there, and then run with the quarterback. So Broncos linebackers are going to have to really step up and play good in this game because they're going to be isolated quite often in that box.
11 personnel? Don't you mean zebra? According to Pat Shermer, I thought that was hilarious this last week, right?
Yeah.
Obviously zebra for 11 and tiger for 12. No, you're exactly right, man. I mean, the thing with Nick Sirianni's offense, when I went back and watched film this last week, it's hard to figure out what he wants to do. You see some RPOs, you see an air raid type attack, you see some fundamentals of that West Coast tree that he ultimately came from, but it's hard. And when Nick Sirianni's trying to ultimately spread you out, your linebackers have to play sideline to sideline. You said it. Baron Browning is a nice story. I loved scouting him last year down at the Senior Bowl. When he got drafted, we were all thrilled. And you know what? He got drafted right where he should have been. I was calling for him way too early up there in the second. I was just in love with this kid, though. I love his fire. I love his desire, but he's a rookie and he's going to get caught and he's going to make some mistakes. And when you look at Dallas Goedert, man, that you've got to somehow account for this man. He's not a world beater or Mark Andrews or anything like that, but he is Jalen Hurts' best friend right now on this offense.
Yeah, he is a true old school tight end attached to the offensive line, Y guy. But with 11 personnel, when you can be a chain mover and a big threat in the red zone and over the middle of the field, also can do some stuff after the catch. Just being so big. Maybe some of Iowa, maybe some of Denver's tight ends should take some notes on that. But really, he's a great player, and I'm really concerned about the linebackers in this play. It's not just also the run game and the quarterback power, which from an efficiency standpoint can kill you with somebody like Jalen Hurts, as big and strong as he is, getting positive yards every time. It's the screen game too, right? Those linebackers are going to have to be closing space quickly and tackling in the open field, because no team in the NFL is running screens at the same rate as the Philadelphia Eagles.
Is that right? Wow.
Number one.
Wouldn't that be nice if we could see some of that here on offense too? I mean, Teddy Bridgewater, I said last week, he was number one in picking up the blitz in terms of completion percentage, somewhere hovering around the 85 percentile. But it's one of those things, man, where Dallas Goedert, you've got to account for him. But when you see your offensive coach kind of bending a little bit to the quarterback, hey, let me give you some relief with the screen. I did not know that about the Eagles. They run a lot of screens. I didn't know they were the number one screen team. Something you've got to coach. If you're Vic Fangio, you're this evil defense, this genius, Ed Donatel, you watch those screens and you start looking at the linebackers. Like you said, Nick, I mean, if the safeties are catching the screen back or the screen wide receiver, what have you, it's already a positive. It's an explosive play, 10 yards plus, you're in trouble. The sticks are ultimately moving. This has got to be a game where coaching prevails. On the defensive side of the ball, obviously offense, there are going to be some problems. I think you'll see maybe some communication issues. Maybe you see a timeout before the play clock ultimately winds down. But if you're Vic Fangio, you've got to have your young cats tuned up for this game on D.
Yeah, it's really going to be just talking Broncos defense right now. They got to be disciplined. Not only do the Eagles run the most screens, but they are still a vertical based attack. They don't really run a lot of those intermediate routes, but with Quez Watkins, with Jalen Reagor, with Hightower when he's active, and Devonta Smith, who's more the middle field guy for them. But that's a vertical offense. And if they're not throwing it short of the sticks, making you play disciplined in space and good tackling in space, then they're looking to hit you over the top. So it really is going to require this defense to do what they've been better at over the last few weeks, but something they haven't proven this year, which is tackling in space, limiting those plays, and limiting the big play over the top, because the Eagles want to do both. And that takes a lot of concentration and execution from a snap-to-snap perspective.
Yeah, and I'm curious to see what Jonathan Cooper is going to do. I mean, how can you help your linebackers? So start with a pass rush, start with containing as well. And we talk about the screen game. I'm also thinking about defensive ends. You have got to know as a defensive lineman that if you're starting to get that push-pull, that quick release from the O, there's a reason. And it's probably that screen. So you've got to look for a young guy like Jonathan Cooper, who doesn't have that linebacking speed per se, but he does have the ability to maneuver left and right on that line of scrimmage. So maybe you look for Jonathan Cooper to not only get after the game as a pass rusher, but be a consistent and dominant performance on the edge. I mean, you've got to have edge contain. It's boring. It's not fun. I tried teaching my young kids and 8-year-olds to contain the edge for flag football. When they don't, it's maddening, right? You turn those hips and it's all over. Maybe you look for Jonathan Cooper to have another good game. Malik Reed, where are you at? I need you to get after Jalen Hurts, man. You got to hit this young guy. He's going to keep coming. That's something I absolutely love about Jalen Hurts. No matter how far down they are, that guy seems to keep bringing it, and the Broncos got to be ready.
Yeah, and it's this is part two. This is test number 2 for Vic Fangio as far as figuring out what they want to do to contain a rushing quarterback. Obviously, Lamar Jackson is his own beast. I mean, nobody's doing what Lamar does, and to expect it from anybody else is not fair. But they thought, hey, we'll make Lamar beat us with the arm, give him the open throws. We don't think he can hit those consistently, and we'll use contained pass rushing. That didn't work. Lamar killed you. Lamar was hot. Sometimes great quarterbacks, that just happens. He puts you in that kind of flux. Jalen Hurts also, I'm curious if we see any pivoting or shifting in defensive philosophy against this quarterback. Because you say Jonathan Cooper, Malik Reed getting after it, but if you crash too hard on the edge, you really leave yourself vulnerable for what they like to do with the jet sweeps motions, the quarterback read options, and the RPO look. So really puts you in flux. I mean, that's one of the things that I really love about college football is the styles are so different. You don't get that as much in the NFL, But the
Right.
Eagles are doing kind of the old power quarterback runs going on that you've kind of seen in the SEC and some of these more power-oriented teams as they shift into this era of offensive football. So it'll be fun. Travis coming in. Speaking of fun, Travis always support you. I think Utah picked up the dub today, so congrats to your Utes. They actually have a fun linebacker prospect, so I'm sure we'll talk about him at some point. Good evening, Nick and Luke, Broncos country. Seen that Denver signed a quarterback and working out a tight end. Are we at need at those positions? What's the story behind that? As far as I know, this makes sense from a close contact perspective. Unfortunately, the Broncos have a few guys that are on the sick bug list, and some of those have been the quarterback room, Drew Lock and Noah Fant coming off of the list. But those are areas where maybe, with close contacts and whatnot, you could see something pop up the day before the game, and that could create an issue. So sounds like Etling, who they brought on, I'm not sure about the tight end, but it sounds like Etling is going to be kept away from those other quarterbacks for now, and it's a break glass in case of emergency situation. But hopefully we won't have to deal with that at all. And it's just precautionary for a team that's really dealing with the sick bug.
This makes me curious about Drew Lock's status, just because he was on that list all week as well.
Yeah.
Part of me yesterday said, just send Brett Rippon home and have him, be your break glass in case of emergency guy. But
could have been already exposed, though.
Yeah, that's not the case, right? So this
Yeah.
is obviously kind of showing us a little bit, or we're allowed to speculate what we think is happening in terms of the contact and tracing and all that stuff. Etling, he's 27 years old. Ironically enough, he got a scholarship. He turned down to CU.
LSU?
He
But
went
is he
to
in LSU?
he went to Purdue.
Etling? Okay.
And then he transferred to
Okay.
LSU. So I think his first 2 years were at Purdue, and then he went to LSU. So I don't know much about him other than he's a 7th round pick for the Patriots. They say he's a McDaniels guy based on what I was reading a little bit today. So take that for what it's worth. I don't even know. I'll have to check some game film on this, Travis, because I don't know much about this guy. I wouldn't read too far into it. I don't think it's like, oh, we somehow found this new like the Jets, right? White in the diamond in the rough. No, that's not it. This is so they don't get caught with their pants down, which could have been the scenario last week in Dallas. You guys can check those stories out as well.
Yeah.
Drew had notified the team, hey, this is what's going on, I think midair. And they had to kind of stop and hope for not another Kendall Hinton 2 situation, as Fangio alluded to earlier. So I think this is just the Broncos crossing their X's and dotting their I's and crossing their T's, and making sure that they are good to go.
Yeah, not put in a situation where they have to play Mickey Mouse football with a guy who's not taking any snaps under center. Thanks, Roger Goodell. Player safety #1, buddy. I'm going to get a fine for that one, I'm sure. But anyway, let's continue on. I do really want to talk also. So we talked a lot about the Eagles offense, but I think the real story here is the Broncos offense versus the Eagles defense. Obviously, we talked about it already. Pat Shurmur's going to be out. Does that change anything here? But the Broncos last week coming off of, 160 yards, 190 yards on the ground, up a lot early, obviously not scoring every single drive, but explosive plays in the pass game, efficiency, rushing the football, throwing it short of the sticks, and your guy making a play and getting the first down. Who'd have thought, man? Giving your playmakers a chance and they do something. But what do you think about this game? I think I really think the Broncos, this is maybe their biggest advantage on paper in this game, which is crazy to say, but I think the offense, specifically the run game, should be able to dictate versus this Eagles front seven.
You're exactly right. You got the rookie of the week last week in Javonte Poogie Williams, and he's the backup. I don't understand it. I'm not going to pretend. I do like what I'm seeing out of Melvin Gordon, and that tells me that Javonte is obviously pushing the man. We see it every week. It's nice to see Melvin Gordon actually going north and south instead of east and west, so my hat's off to him. You've got to run the ball. You've got to help your offensive line. You cannot just let the offensive line, especially their young guys in the middle, just sit back and try to withstand this pass rush. It's going to beat Teddy up. I know he had some injuries earlier this season, but we got to protect the quarterback. That's the first thing. And the nice thing about Teddy this year, he's protecting the ball more than he ever has. His stats look great, all those things. But we're still trying to answer the question, are the Broncos for real? They can be for real if they run the ball. Just run the ball. I would love to see Javonte Williams get minimum 17, 18 carries a game. You don't know what that 50-50 split's going to look like. And you know what? Mike Boone, where are you at? Why can't we mix some other guys in here a little bit? It doesn't just need to be the two. I would just love to see more Javonte. I'm not sure that we're going to see it. I want to be optimistic. I just don't know what to expect out of Shula. Obviously, he's very close with Shermer, like you noted, but so he knows Shermer's offense. Is he going to feel obligated to Pat Shermer? Hey, I need to call this like Pat would call it, or are you going to call it the way you want to call it, Mike? It's a bizarre circumstance to be in.
Yeah, no, it really is bizarre. And the Broncos, on paper, again, like I said, they should be able to run the football against this Eagles front for as good as Brandon Cox and, Fletcher Cox, not Brandon Cox. That's I think, an edge rusher for Florida this year. But Fletcher Cox and Javon Hargraves are in the pass game. They've struggled in the run defense. They've been not the best against double teams. And the linebackers for the Eagles, Broncos country, I don't know if it's the romanticizing of the linebacker position in general, but people act like the Broncos linebackers over the last 5 years have been like dreadful. We're going to get a chance this week to watch some dreadful linebacker play. The Eagles are pretty sad at the second level. And if you can get there with Javonte Williams, with Melvin Gordon, you got a chance to make it another 10, 15 yards or a house call because those linebackers have been struggling this season. So run the ball effectively. The other thing about the Eagles, man, this defense, some guys do a really good job of maximizing their talent and making them play above their heads. That's not been the case with Gannon and this Eagles defense this year, giving up yards left and right. And I'm not the biggest critic of the bend don't break defense, but there's a point where you let the opposing quarterback in the pass game get on fire because it's easy pass after easy pass. That's what the Eagles have done. I think they've given up 5 quarterbacks and have had above 80% completion percentage this year. Teddy Bridgewater is going to take that all day. And if the Broncos pass weapons can do stuff after the catch, they're going to be able to just control the whole game with the offense. And that's what you want to do. That's what you want to do.
Yeah, it exhausts your team, that bend but don't break. You can only do it for so long before the offense is exhausted from going out there. The defense is exhausted. I mean, no one's believing. You can't do that all the time. So that's definitely an area of concern if you're a Philadelphia Eagles fan. When we say run the ball, for me, what does that look like? It looks like it did last week in Dallas, baby. Let's use some fullback. Let's, get that guy Andrew Beck in the mix a little bit. Let's get Saubert in the mix. He's willing to block. Absolutely love it. Noah's going to be back this week. I'm curious to see how Noah's going to play. Everyone's been calling you out for your blocking. It's been weak. Now people are calling you out for not getting first downs with that big athletic body. I'm curious to see Noah play. I think he's going to be pissed off and come out and play really well. I'm excited to see what his effort looks like in the run game. But look, he wasn't drafted to block. Okay. I've got no problem with Saubert and Alberto, 2 bigger guys as well in the mix that love the block. I mean, let them do it. Yeah, it doesn't need to look sexy. Javonte gets more yards as the game goes on. It was that way last year in North Carolina. I mean, he led the league, the whole NCAA rather, in yards per contact after missing tackles. I mean, take your pick with Javonte. He's the rookie of the week for crying out loud. He's in Kyle Brandt's Bay. I mean, come on, dude. You've got to give it to this guy in Broncos country. If they see more Melvin Gordon, they're going to start clamoring even more so for Pookie, as they should.
I'm going to take a little bit of a different stance here. I think it's both these running backs are playing extremely well. The thing about Pookie Williams right now is that he is too boom or bust from a play-to-play basis, and this Broncos offense isn't good enough consistently through the air to be a threat from second and long, third and long. Now, Javonte Williams leading the league in broken tackles. He has 8 15-plus yard runs compared to Melvin Gordon's 1, but Melvin Gordon has the least amount of run stuffs per rush in the NFL this year, the best percentage of that. Javonte Williams, number 1 in the NFL on run stuffs. So that's something you got to look for. Obviously, he's a rookie. You want to feed both these guys, but I really am impressed how they're feeding off each other. And if we can do what we did last week, I'm not going to complain too much about the handoffs, right? Because they're keeping the ball rolling. They're staying ahead of the sticks on second down, which is something and third down, which this team has not been doing this season. And they did it effectively. So I think both running backs, use them both. If they're hot, we're talking about good problems here.
Use them both. You're right. And it's hard for me to give you too much pushback. But I do got to say this before I get over to Pete. It's just, for me, Melvin's not going to be here next year. So stop wasting your time. Like, I get it. You can't just let him rot on the bench. But I mean, you know what? Maybe another good way to look at it too is you don't want to wear out Javonte Williams either in his rookie season, right? That was one of the biggest reasons I was excited about him getting drafted as high as he did. He he didn't have that tread worn down to the nub on the tires. He split those reps with Michael Carter at North Carolina. So maybe you're right. You'd need that 1-2 punch, but as a fan, it's really, really tough. And Peter Middleton, one of our great members of Broncos country, always rooting for the orange and blue, coming in here hot, saying Noah Fant needs to forget blocking and be the ultra attacking tight end. Noah Fant is coming back this week. A lot has been said on social media, the airwaves, in print. Look what the Broncos did without Noah Fant. I hate that narrative, but it's hard to fight. What do you make of Noah Fant coming back this week, and what do you think Broncos country can expect?
Noah Fant has been struggling this year. He's been in the soup, if you will, just kind of floating around,
In
struggling,
the
but he does have.
soup. I've been asking people about that since last week.
Yeah.
There it is, in the soup, and no one's maybe it's a Midwest thing. I don't.
Maybe.
In the soup.
I do love
man.
myself
I
some
love
soup.
it.
I have lentils a lot.
I
of
love the
lentils in this
reference.
house.
I had to interrupt you right there because I totally remembered. I started asking
Yep.
my neighbors and everything else. He's in the soup. He's in the thick of things, in the mess.
Yep, exactly. Just lost in space. But Noah Fant, 3 touchdowns on the season. And I think that somebody who's really going to help Noah Fant in this game being back. Obviously, the snaps are probably going to go down with Alberto Cuevinam coming back, looking better with Saubert and Beck on the field as well. But Noah Fant in the red zone, he's somebody you want when that space gets tough, because on those crossing routes, if he's paired up with a foot race to the pylon against a linebacker, Noah Fant advantage most of the time. So I'm excited to see what he can do in the red zone situations there. And hopefully this is one where Jerry Jeudy being back helps him as well. You haven't had somebody that's a middle of field of the target that can clear out some space and win off the snap like Jerry Jeudy can, right? Tim Patrick, Cortland Sutton, excellent down the field, big guys. Cortland Sutton, especially the knee injury, not creating space immediately off the snap in the horizontal plane. Jerry Jeudy can do that. And that should hopefully open up space and just better synergy for the space for Noah Fant in this game. And he can create something after the catch with that or in the red zone.
My guy Gage from Madrid is in the house, so I want to say what's up. He's watching MHI. Travis coming in with another a good comment for us, saying, look, I know on offense that we're going to run Pat Shurmur's script, but I'm wondering if we'll see something added in by Shula/committee. As for our Broncos, always wanting to win, but still feel as if they're a Jekyll and Hyde. Seeing upside by our young guys. I think that's fair. There's a lot to be optimistic about if you're a Broncos fan, but there's also still a lot of things to be frustrated about as well. The one thing I'll say about Noah Fant, I don't think Fant is a selfish player. I don't think he's a me guy. I think if you had that case, you would see him coming out in the media and, kind of pissing and moaning like Emmanuel Sanders and Demaryius Thomas were that one year, and we're not getting our catches and that kind of thing. That's not who Noah Fant is. So I do like his attitude. I think that sometimes it's tough for him to not necessarily get a fair shake, but I think he gets caught up in the soup, as you would say. And that's tough. I think he's a good guy, but I want to see a lot from Noah Fant. And I'm looking for, I think our guy James was coming at me saying, why is Melvin Gordon gone? Maybe we should re-sign him. James, you are crazy if that's the case. George Payton moved mountains to get a running back in the second round who should have been in the first round, in my opinion. Nick, I know you love running backs. I had to sneak that in there. But it's just one of those deals. Melvin was overpaid in the first place. He is gone. I assure you, James. I get he's playing well, but he did not deserve the contract that John Elway gave him.
Yeah, we had Travis coming in with stars there. Thank you so much, Travis. And Dahine coming in saying, after the bye, 5 of the 7 games are against the AFC West. How many of those games does this team win?
Good question.
FTR, Broncos for life, and run the dang ball. Broncos, 5 games. They need to at least win 3. I think if you obviously one of these games coming up against the Lions, you have the Jacqueline Hyde Bengals, but the Bengals, they are a team that is struggling so much against the run. I think you can power run them to death. I mean, they can't do it right now. Obviously, that's a few games away. Things can change, but they're getting killed by power run. So that's another win. And the other one is obviously the Eagles here. So 2 out of 3 of those games, I think that's definitely feasible and doable. You have to do that. And then 3 out of 5 versus the AFC West, that puts you right in the thick of things. Obviously, you wish you hadn't dropped one to the likes of Cleveland. That team was vulnerable. Broncos really in a bad spot with the short week on that one because they couldn't get the run game figured out in the linebackers until it was too late. And then the Steelers game as well. Those are 2 that you wish you could have back, but here you are. You're right in the thick of things. And I think 3 out of 5, if you take 2 out of 3 of the next ones, what does that put you at? 5 more wins this season? 10 wins? You're 10 wins. If you don't make the playoffs, that's just BS luck.
I'll tell you this, 10 wins, whether or not you're in the playoffs, Vic Fangio and Teddy Bridgewater are both coming back. How do you feel about that, Broncos country? Because that's rough. How good do you want this team to be? How far do you want this team to be? I know the subject of this is we're asking, are they pretenders? Are they contenders? We're not sure. We know that they can beat bad football teams. They had a fluke. I'll call it a fluke last week. It was a trap game. I'm not taking anything away, but I think 9 out of 10 times the Cowboys probably win that game. They didn't show up. And then when they did show up, they put up garbage time points really, really quick. Brandon McManus struggling. That really, really bothers me. He's been like your biggest offensive weapon for years. I'm hoping he gets a get back game. But Lawrence Rivera coming in midway through the show. We appreciate you, bud. Saying Facebook barely told me you guys were on. Oh, well, what's up, guys? It's all good, man. Lawrence, we're on your time, my friend. You can always check MHI when y'all are good and ready. But no, you've got to win these games. I get it that they're NFC opponents, Nick. I do, and that doesn't necessarily help. But the AFC West is so close, you can't afford to drop anything right now. I think the early game tomorrow is going to be an AFC West game. Maybe it's Chargers.
It might be. I know because the Sunday night game is Chiefs Raiders. So giddy up. That'll be a great one.
Yeah. So So all eyes are on the AFC West right now. Yeah. I mean, it's so competitive. You've got to keep moving on. You've got to keep moving up. You've got to keep progressing as a team. Now, you mentioned the Bengals. Joe Burrow scares me. He really does. That guy, when you've got that quarterback, I'm not saying he's the best thing ever, but the Bengals found themselves a quarterback. So every game's going to be tough, and we can't be looking past the Eagles.
Eclipse coming back. They scare me.
Oh, dude. Yeah,
I'm nervous.
they're
3-6. All their get into this. I'm going to pull up the Eagles' schedule because their schedule is like high quality losses. They're much better than their record. But
all right, while you pull that, I'm going to get to our guy Eclipse. Eclipse coming in hot. Appreciate you so much, brother. $5 super. Vic Fangio has always been better calling the game from up top in the booth. I'm sure he would be incredible watching from home and Zoom coach the game. Eclipse, you're not lying. He's a fish out of water. I think he's slowly starting to get it. It was cool, I'll say this, to watch Vic Fangio have a little bit of a personality shown and revealed in that Dallas Cowboys game. That was cool. But the coolest thing wasn't wasn't watching Vic with the fist pump and after the fourth down stop. It was Dalton Reisner. It was an offensive player celebrating with the defensive guy. That to me was, I don't know, not necessarily symbolic, but it was odd because I've never seen it. Vic stays as far away from the offense as he can. So to see an offensive player and a leader in the locker room embrace the head coach, it was a 1 week win. Sure, I'm not going to make more of it than it needs to be, but it definitely caught my eye. I'll say that about Fangio.
Yeah, I mean, glad to see him have some chutzpah. And glad to see the defense make some plays, man. It's been a bit, but they did. Peter Middleton coming in. So would you accept Boone being the backup next year? Obviously, it's going to depend on what this team looks like. With Boone, you probably need to bring in somebody in the belly of the draft, the middle of the draft, to take some snaps and be young and eat that up, or a veteran too. But I think that's definitely possible. I would be curious to see what Gordon wants contractually, just because I do think that having those two running backs with how this Broncos identity is, and we've seen it with this season, Broncos have had middle of the pack injury luck compared to the league average, which is crazy, right? It feels like everybody's dropping, but it's closer to the middle than it is to the far end. And the way the Broncos run this team, if you lose one of your running backs for an extended time, let's say you only have one Gordon or one Javonte Williams, your offense might be sunk, right? So having that ability in there to go with a guy, if it's not costing you too much, I don't think is the bad strategy, because you need to, if running into the football is your identity and the big running back that can, be a pass protector, run between the tackles, contribute in the pass game is a big part of your identity, then you need to make sure that you have a quality guy in there that can come in and supplant somebody or fill in if there's an injury. So we'll see.
Y'all are crazy. I'm seeing it all in the stream right now. Everybody wants Melvin Gordon back. Folks, the first game that he fumbles in, all right, the first loss, y'all aren't going to be loving Melvin that much. I'm telling you right now, he's having a good season. Sure, he's been an excellent compliment to Javonte Williams. He's the starter. He's the vet. And I will say this, he's had some excellent pass protection reps too. Melvin Gordon really stepping up, and you can see Javonte pushing him. But why does it take a rookie to push, a former Pro Bowl back like that? That bothers me. I think sometimes there's a little bit of a tendency to be selfish. on Melvin Gordon's end. I'm not saying he's a bad locker room guy or anything like that, but he's not Javonte Williams. He's not all about that business. Sometimes he likes to enjoy himself a little more than he should. I'm not trying to take anything away from him, but he's going to cost you. Some team is going to overpay, probably for injuries, just like the Broncos did. Morgan Henry. Man, Morgan Henry. We have got to give Morgan Henry a shout out. A hashtag beat the Eagles. Morgan Henry has been absolutely killing it with the Stars, wanting to pick out a jersey of their choice. Man, I mean, that's as cool as it gets. Morgan Henry, 1,200 stars. Thank you so much for all of the supports. That's impressive, Nick. I'm blown away by the support.
Yeah, Broncos got to win now. Morgan is willing it to happen with those stars. So hashtag beat the Eagles. We appreciate you, Morgan. Man, that's shout out to you. Thank you for keeping the lights on in here, keeping MHI moving up to the top there. We're coming for Chad and Zach on their Huddle Up pod.
Watch out.
Look out, guys. But yeah, I guess we could talk a little bit about this run game in general. The Broncos in this game, this is an Eagles team that is on paper. I mean, can you even name Eagles starting linebacker? Chat, give me an Eagles starting linebacker.
Devin Taylor, my guy.
Taylor, is he a starter? I feel like he is. They run a lot of 4-3. He's the weak side guy that's an overhang.
Yeah.
But TJ Edwards has been not super impressive there. He's somebody that, man, if they're playing in off zone coverage and you can hit him with crossers all day if your offensive line can hold up for them. So not really impressive. Alex Singleton, again, this is not a great linebacking group. So this is one where the middle of the field, the tight ends, the running backs, they can eat. They should be able to eat. And Teddy should be able to get hot because the open windows are there underneath. So I'm really excited about that, Peter. Saying it's great stars. Man, you said it. It's incredible.
Here's James. James, my guy, has been pushing back on Melvin Gordon. Melvin Gordon used to whoop the Broncos as a Charger. That's why Elway got him. Gordon is a baller. Bring him back. No, Elway got him to make Shermer happy, and Shermer can dance around it as much as he wants. That Shermer, I know Shermer wanted Melvin Gordon. Now, Shermer's not the one signing the checks or anything like that, but I think some of it, I'm being a little unfair. I don't think Melvin Gordon has been utilized to his potential either. I would love to see these running backs thrown the ball a little bit more. And I'm talking more than just a screen or a Texas route or, something like that. Like, get them involved. These guys are athletes. They can roll. I mean, it's something that's important. And our guy Dave weighing in here saying Shermer seemed to call a better game last week. I think he was finally getting the message that he needed to do something different, like running the ball more. I think if Mike Shula is calling the game, we will run like we did last week. I love that. That's Shermer getting the message. Well, that message, who's that message coming from? Is it coming from Vic or is it coming from George? Is it coming from Joe Ellis, John Elway? Who is sending that message? Because I agree, something changed last week, and Shermer rolled with it.
I mean, I know he gets a lot of gruff for the running on second and long, right? It's second and 10, second and 9. And, if they run it into the belly of the defense, the backs of the offensive line, boo! What is Shermer doing? What an idiot. They did it like 2 or 3 times in the last game and it worked. So really, I mean, execution from that offensive line, running back seeing the holes, and hats off too. If you're having big explosive runs, who's doing a lot of the heavy lifting? Wide receivers on the perimeter. Getting the block.
The Hogs and the Hogs. You're right. You're right. And you've got some of the best wide receivers to do it with Cortland Sutton and Tim Patrick. Those cats love to block, man. And even Jerry Jeudy. I see Jerry. I see the technical route runner trying to get in on the blocks. And I'm like, dude, it kind of gives me goosebumps even saying it. You're like, man, one of the best receiving prospects in years is willing to block. That is exciting stuff. And they're expecting things out of their running backs. That's a receiver that knows, hey, Melvin Gordon against the Giants can rip off that 70-yard, 80-yard run. Javonte Williams can rip off a 45, 50-yard run, bounce off 5 guys with the belly right behind them. And Quinn Miners getting his start as well. Be sure to check out milehighhuddle.com where you can read all about it as well. You're going to see Quinn in there. Teddy Bridgewater. Let's talk a little bit of Teddy, kind of in the last segment of the show, because I teased it a little bit. He's having the best statistical year of his entire career in the NFL, but sometimes it doesn't always feel that way. But I will say this. I think Teddy is managing the game extremely well. The one thing that's driving me absolutely crazy is some of the sacks, because I feel like he retreats back a little too far instead of eating it. But I like the play from Teddy Bridgewater. I really, really do. I think he's a calm presence in that locker room for both sides of the ball. I know complained last week. I wish he'd get after his O-line when he gets sacked. It's just not who he is. So I'm not going to criticize the man for being something I want him to be. But right now, he's a winner. He's a winning quarterback in the NFL. It's weird to say that for the Denver Broncos, right? Just one win above 100, but he's winning football right now, Nick.
Yep. He 100% is. And, we knew signing up this season with Teddy Bridgewater as the potential starting quarterback that him dropping it back, shotgun 11 personnel, airing it out 40 times. He's not Peyton Manning. He's not Drew Brees. And if you force him to be that quarterback, you're going to lose. I'm sorry. I mean, you're paying $4.5 million for him and giving up a 6th-round pick. He's playing well above expectations, and this is what works for him. And you know what? If you're winning football games and complimentary football, that's fine. That can get it done. We saw it against a really good Dallas team last week. So the Broncos, they need to continue to execute on first down because this offense not in a position with the passing play where 2nd and 3rd and long are going to be a good position for you. But if they can run the ball effectively, play field position, protect the football, and take those calculated shots. So that's the other thing about this Eagles team. I am curious. We don't have very much time left, but just getting to some of the nitty gritty. The Eagles play more. They're a top 5 team in the NFL and too high. So that means there's going to be space in the box a lot of times. And if you see them start to, let's say the Broncos are starting to gash them a little bit, they start to have to live in cover 1 or cover 0 or anything like that. That's when the play action shots over the top open up for you. I mean, it's a big debate, right, with Ryan Tannehill and Derrick Henry. We're going to find out this year. Tannehill has been really good since the Titans. Well, he sees more cover 1 than any quarterback in the NFL because teams stack the box against Derrick Henry. It's easier to hit the ball down the field when that happens. Who'd have thought? So that's going to be a big one here to see how the Eagles pivot. And if the Broncos can be effective and force them into that single high, that's when the home run hitters over the top. Cortland Sutton, Tim Patrick. So really, I'm actually pretty confident, even without Shermer and the difference there. It's not because Shermer's out, but the Broncos offense matches up so well with this Eagles. I think they should be able to dictate it as long as the defense isn't constantly breaking with the bend don't break. This should be a Broncos win. It really should. It's a good Eagles team, but we match up well.
Yeah, and Teddy can recognize those things better than people give him credit for because I know that we see the play and we're like, that was a great play. Well, first the quarterback needs to recognize that single high safety. It's the first thing a quarterback reads during the pre-snap. A good quarterback, a competent quarterback should be the safeties. Man, single high, you get me all giddy when you start saying that.
Nerding. We're nerding out.
Yeah, and everybody else, because, man, a quarterback like Teddy Bridgewater sees single high. He's got not only the weapons, but he's got the acumen. He does have the arm. I know he doesn't have the Drew Lock arm, the Jay Cutler arm, some of these Josh Allen arm, Pat Mahomes. That's okay. He's more than competent in recognizing coverage and taking advantage of it. So that's something that you can see. But how do you do that? Sometimes you need those runs. Those runs aren't always going to be first downs, and they're not always going to be positive. Sometimes a 1-yard dinker, 2 yards, even a line of scrimmage, it's trying to set something up. And you got to watch that in Thursday Night Football. And I will say this, I want to eat some crow right now because I thought about it. I campaigned a little bit for Jacoby to come in here. Good Lord. I thought, do you remember when he used to be able to run? With the Colts, it was awkward and weird, but he was still running in the end zone. I mean, the guy couldn't even move, and then he kind of had a Paul Pierce moment where, you thought the world was over, and there he is on the sideline running up and down. But no, I want to eat some crow on that because Teddy Bridgewater, I said at the time, I'm like, man, I think, they're both probably equal. No, not at all. Teddy is absolutely having a good season. And Morgan Henry weighing in. Thank you so much for your support, Morgan. We really appreciate it. Saying, I like Melvin Gordon as a running back too. If Javonte Williams can gain the number 1 spot, Melvin is a decent number 2 if we can reduce the payout for him. Morgan, I want to ask you this. Is Melvin going to be okay being a number 2? Because I think Melvin Gordon can start on some other NFL teams. I really do. Don't you, Nick? I mean, this league is hurting. It's starving for starting running backs right now. Just ask the Baltimore Ravens, who I'm sure would love Melvin Gordon, and he would probably take a reduction in pay if it's for a playoff team.
Yeah, and teams are really looking for that big-bodied running back, too. It's like what we just talked about. If you can dictate cover 1, that's when the explosive pass plays can happen off of play action. And it's really harder to do with the smaller backs sometimes, unless you have a dynamic offensive line. So a running back like that, and also really helps your pass game. I mean, the fact that the Broncos have 2 backs back there that on third down, they're comfortable leaving a free rushing linebacker or any sort of blitzer, that's a huge, huge advantage schematically and just from down to down. So I think it'll be interesting if Melvin will come back or not, but as always, it depends on a lot of factors that's going to happen. How Javonte looks down the stretch. Let's see if we get some Boone looks and what's the
Mhm.
market looks like for Melvin, what the Broncos do before that. I mean, I would love to have Melvin Gordon back because he's a good football player and matches what we want to do very well. But if I don't have enough money, if I'm bringing in Russell Wilson first, or I'm paying Teddy Bridgewater, $15 million a year for 3 years, or
Yeah.
plus that, or if I'm paying Cortland Sutton, I think Pro Football Focus said Cortland Sutton's going to get $16.5 million a year, which is insane, and Tim Patrick $13 million a year. So that starts to disappear pretty quickly. So it depends on what happens elsewhere and what Melvin's looking like, but he's been a good one, and I'm just appreciating him and Javonte both. Maybe not the best running back duo in football right now, but about as good as anyone, and they give you a chance when they are running like they've been running the last couple weeks.
You're
And
exactly
not fumbling the ball. Not fumbling the starting ball.
Dude, fumbling the ball. Man.
Don't do it. Can't do it.
Javonte, Melvin, I mean, come on, fellas. Like, here's what I'll say, man. I think Broncos country, we're cautiously optimistic, but we're confused. A few weeks ago, Nick, we're already looking to the offseason. We're talking quarterbacks on this show, as we're a couple draft nerds for sure, and Scott as well. We're starting to look. I said, look, this is a waste of time. We're just kind of the coach is a lame duck, who I still stand by that. I don't think Fangio is going to continue to be the head coach. I don't see this team getting the 10 wins, but that's another conversation. But we're trying to figure out, okay, should we enjoy the now? I heard you just say, I'm going to enjoy Melvin Gordon and Javonte Williams right now. I think that's something that we really need to stop and think about, because, Nick, I enjoyed last weekend. I did. Like, I had fun, and it wasn't just because it was like a blowout win. It's because I saw some things I didn't always see. I saw like energy. I saw a pulse. I saw, first of all, Broncos country. If you're watching in Texas right now, I will give you a shout out right now, because that was absolutely dirty to see the orange in Jerry World flooding that market. I absolutely loved it. But it was so cool, Nick, and to hear you say I'm enjoying it. I think that's what I want to do from now on. I want to enjoy it, and everyone enjoys those wins. And guess what, Broncos country, losses are going to come. This team is not going to go undefeated from here on out, but let's just see something different. And I think that's where you're seeing a lot of energy, and I expect to see a much larger crowd tomorrow at Mile High, as opposed to those 15,000 no-shows a couple weeks ago.
Yep. No, absolutely. And I want to get to this comment here from Kenneth Patterson. I'm not sure I want to be the team that pays Teddy, but if you want to bet with me right now, let's say no injuries happening, but will Teddy Bridgewater get $15 million a year on the open market next year? You bet your butt. Next year's open market, you have Jameis Winston coming off a horrific ACL injury. And after that, you look at the market. Are you paying Jacoby Brissett? Are you paying Andy Dalton? You're talking about Teddy Bridgewater, his best statistical season by far. He's coming up on it. He looks pretty efficient back there. And he's younger than me, which is upsetting. He just turned 29 years old, right? He just turned 29. So you still have 4 or 5 solid years on top of the renowned leadership and stability he brings to a franchise. Teddy's definitely getting $15 million a year. It makes me nervous being a team that possibly could do that. I think if for $15 million, and then also Ted says it here, $15 million is pennies for a quarterback. That's right. I mean, that's true. So it'll be interesting. CC, he could realistically get 25 from somewhere. I'm backing out at that point, whatever. Like, bring in Tyrod Taylor for a year if you have to do that, which is not great. But I'm not paying Teddy 25, because when you get really sunk at the quarterback is when you pay too much for the wrong guy. I'd rather pay nothing for the wrong guy. So that's where I stand. But it's definitely possible.
Sure, and George Payton likes Teddy. Everyone likes Teddy. I checked in with a friend.
Not everyone.
If
you see the socials, not everybody.
That's true. Not the Drew Lock stands. You're right. They don't like Teddy. But and Teddy, man, those dreads are coming in good. I saw a picture of them this week. I'm like, now they look good. They looked kind of crazy in the beginning phase when you're growing your hair out and it looks goofy. Teddy's looking sharp now. Here's the thing, man. I checked in with some friends in Carolina, and people like Teddy. People think that Teddy is a championship caliber quarterback. What do I mean by that? No, he's not Josh Allen. No, he's not Pat Mahomes, but he passes that confetti test that Joel Klatt's always talking about, right? They think that he can manage a game to get a team there. They think that he can uplift a team to get them there, not with superior arm talent or athleticism, but he is so calm, cool, collected, and prepared that people feel like they can win with him. They love him. They have a connection to him. I would not be surprised if the Broncos offer Teddy Bridgewater a contract extension and he turn it down. We're at the point in the season right now where I don't see Tim Patrick getting re-signed by the Denver Broncos. I really don't. That's something you should have done in week 2 or week 3. Now he's starting to get that taste of free agency and hearing his name brought up every week and enjoying himself, and he deserves to get paid like a starter. So the future for Teddy Bridgewater, it's really, really unclear, but it's probably got a few more dollar signs than you and me.
Yeah, I mean, Scott's in the chat here saying he thinks Teddy doesn't get 15 million a year. I'm looking at
I think he does for
over the
sure.
cap right
Easy.
now. There are 15 quarterbacks in the NFL this season that are making 25 million or more APY, according to over the cap. So 15 million, 10 million less. Granted, there's a big cutoff there for. Go ahead.
What's Case Keenum at? Was he at 12? Because the Browns paid a lot for him to come in and like kind of be that backup to Baker Mayfield. And guess what? That backup won you a game on Thursday Night Football and kept you in the race. I mean, these are the things that like during the time you might cringe and we might see some memes and some jokes out there on Twitter. But if you can lock down a safe quarterback like Teddy Bridgewater, who is comfortable being a backup and coming in and things of that nature, and you've got a plan moving forward with the draft, with free agency, with trading for a quarterback, then I think it makes total sense to lock up Teddy B.
Yeah, I mean, quarterbacks getting paid way more money. This is when you get in trouble. Jimmy Garoppolo, $27.5 million a year. Ryan Tannehill, $29.5 million a year. Carson Wentz, $32 million a year. Jared Goff, $33.5 million a year. So,
Wow.
15, if you can get $15 million a year for 2 years of Teddy, then you're able to get out of that last year. Let's say you bring in a rookie quarterback that supplants him, or Teddy's not worth that. That gives you the flexibility to do that. But it will be really interesting to see how they spread it. I know they do have the second most cap room, but you have guys like Justin Simmons, Garrett Bowles, their contracts explode. Their cap hits explode next year compared to this year. So will be interesting to see what happens. We only have a little bit of time left. Luke, I want to hear your key to the game here. If the Broncos do this, they win the game.
If the Broncos do this, so I say run the ball all the time, so I'm not going to go there. I really, really think that they have got to shut down Dallas Goedert. This guy is the security blanket for Jalen Hurts. He's athletic. You got to know that the Eagles were looking at that Ravens game and trying to figure out how they can somehow suck in Kareem Jackson, because that Kareem Jackson has been freelancing going back and, kind of, at least that's my speculation. I don't know what the calls are. I'm just trying my best when I'm charting the plays, but it seems like sometimes he's so far out of position because he's looking for that big hit. He's such a dynamic playmaker, and you can't really blame him, because when he does make the plays, it's like, okay, that was awesome. But those plays haven't been happening. Those forced fumbles, those things that you've seen before with Kareem Jackson. I'm just so afraid that that ability to scorch the cover 2, the zone with the tight end is going to be there, because this is a guy who understands route trees. This is a guy who understands coverage, and you're not going to have your ultimate defensive secondary out there this week, Vic. You're just not. So I'm really, really worried about Dallas Goedert. He's probably a little bit more of a concern initially than, some of the other young talent on this team. This game, Alabama game part 2. I mean, here we go. How many Alabama guys are going to be on there? So for me, it's Dallas Goedert. You contain Dallas Goedert, you win this football game.
Dallas Goedert, that's a good one. For me, I think the number one thing is the Broncos play with a lead. And I know that's really easy to say, but I don't want them to be passive on defense coming out. I think Vic Fangio finally figured out last week, hey, I have 3 big-time cornerbacks that we invested premium resources in. And guess what? If I have those horses out there that are matching up with CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper, for goodness sake, they should be able to go out there and match up with Quez Watkins, with Jalen Reagor, with, Devonta Smith. I know good picks, but still young and up and coming. So I hope that they can be a little bit more aggressive on defense in their coverage and whatnot. If that means more cover 1 looks, if that means some quarterback spies or blitzes to get Jalen Hurts in there to really put the pressure on him and make him execute those passes. I don't want them to be super passive, bend, don't break on defense. I want them to be dictate a little bit more. And I think with that comes a lead. And with the lead, everything gets going. If the Broncos can play with the lead, that means you can play with the run game. You have balance on pass and run. You can force Jalen Hurts to drop back and pass it. I mean, both these teams want to be one with the lead. And if you can be the one that has the lead early on and making the other team feel like they are forced out of their comfort zone, you should be able to win the game.
I got the Broncos winning this one, Nick. I think I was trying to go back. I think it's been 3 or 4 weeks since I picked the Broncos to win. So I got the Broncos in a close one, 23-17. I know you're kind of hovering around that as well. I just think this is before I knew about Shula and Shermer and all of that, but not a lot changes for me. It really doesn't. I'm excited to see Mike call a game. This is your moment, man. You come from a rich history, genetic background with the great late Don Shula. I'm excited to see what this man can do, but run the ball. You've got the hottest rookie in all of the NFL in terms of the award last week and stuff like that with Javonte Williams. So everyone wants to see it. And I guess another key to victory, I'll just throw out there real quick, energy. I want to see the energy tomorrow in that stadium. I want to feel it. I want to hear it. It's Broncos country. Y'all are special. This isn't just like every other NFL fan base. Mile High Magic does happen in that stadium. I know it's been a while, but when good things are happening, wins are stacking up, momentum. There's a lot to be said about momentum in the NFL. It can quickly change one way or another, but I feel like the Broncos have a lot going for them right now. I'm giving them that win.
The Broncos winning as well. I have 26-24. I think the Broncos are going to be able to, like I said, run the ball effectively. If the Eagles are giving space, Teddy's not going to be greedy, right? That's one more thing that's an issue with them. Something that maybe a quarterback like Drew Lock, right? Patrick Mahomes has struggled with this year, right? Like if they're giving you 5 yards and you have good playmakers on the outside, that's fine. Paper cut them to death. You can do that. And then eventually they're going to have to adjust. And after that's happening, that's when things open up down the field with the big shot. So be efficient, be effective, and play Bronco football and protect the football. And I know that's so simple, but play with the lead, protect the football. You should be able to have enough positives on offense, even with the backup offensive line, unless the offensive line absolutely kills you in this game, right? Which is possible with 3 backups. It really is possible. I mean, if you have a bad offensive line, everything halts to a stop. But as long as that's not an issue, the Broncos should be able to move the football, win. I 26-24, Eagles cover, but what matters more is the Broncos will then be 6-4 on the season.
And let's look for some fight. Let's look for some things that we haven't seen, and let's enjoy it. Just like I've enjoyed this hour with you guys. And
stars too.
Speaking of enjoying it, I enjoy, appreciate, and support, just like you, Scott, and everyone else at MHH, Andrew Baker, showing some more love, saying, look, I'm just here to show loves for the dub. MHH for life. I absolutely love it, guys. Mile High Huddle is a really special place. We don't have subscriptions. We don't have any of that stuff. Travis Weber's coming over here saying, getting in the last one, saying hard to say what's going to happen next season with a new owner, possibly a new regimen to run the new trusts, new coaches, or if we're going to see Teddy next season or not. There's a lot up in the air. We hear you, but first things first, there's a football game tomorrow here in Denver, and it's been a little bit. And Broncos country, we've got to get that bad taste out of our mouth, especially at home. Lawrence Rivera coming in, 21-7 Broncos. I absolutely love the support. I love the energy, and I love the optimistic view, man. 17-7 from Travis. Man, I love it, guys, but don't forget, Nick and I are still a little nervous. Anything can happen. The NFL is getting crazier by the week, and that is a wrap for MHI, guys. You can follow us on Twitter at Nick Kendell, MHH, at Luke Patterson, LP. If you want to be a fan of the pod on Twitter, we would appreciate it. That's at MHI_pod. You can find Twitter, the mothership, Twitter at Mile High Huddle. If you want to get your swag on, huddleuppod.com. Grab yourself a hat, grab yourself a mug. The holidays are coming up. If you're a Facebook supporter, we appreciate you so much. YouTube, wherever you guys get your podcasts, and the Huddle Up Boys will be on tomorrow as soon as the game ends. Be sure to watch out for an article from yours truly as soon as the game ends as well. And, man, here we go. Let's head into the bye week the right way, Nick. How good would that feel? Because if a loss happens tomorrow, dude, we're going to commiserate about it for the next week.
Man, 2 weeks, right? Because the bye week. So
it's yes.
2 weeks. Can't go out like that. Gotta put your best foot forward, and that means a win tomorrow. I think the Broncos are going to do it, man. I'm putting good vibes out there, just like I tried to do last week. And man, we're going to get it. So let's do it. Good vibes Sunday. We're going to be good vibes Monday. Then good vibes for 2 weeks. Thank you guys so much. We appreciate you. Make sure you're following us. We'll see you soon. Go Broncos, man. Right? Let's get on out of here.